Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Napoleon, and today we're back with another Enlisted video, and the first thing I like to say is that I made a mistake. Of course, there's a lot of times that everyone makes mistakes, and in this case, I made a mistake in the sense that, assuming that Enlisted's biggest problem was its progression, which, give or take, Enlisted has done a lot of a better job, or should I say, a very good job of making a balance, and it went from my perspective that all the issues regarding Russian bias, Japanese suffering, German suffers, Italians suffering in campaigns. I made those videos under the assumption that they do actually suffer, and give no mistake, they do suffer. But I came to realize really quickly and really fast that after I made those videos that it's not really the bias or it's not really the issues. Of course, you do have issues such as the Soviet PPD 3438 that is just going to mow people down. You do have issues like a Drum Mag Thompson versus the Italian Breda Mod 38, which is going to be a problem. But the biggest issue that I've been seeing for the entire game for Enlisted is really the player count, and it's not really the bias. As of right now, we have player issues, and this was made much more prevalent during the essentially airborne event, or should I say this event that we get airborne paratroopers, and it's really bad. And to just give you guys an example is that I've been in multiple games as the Axis in Normandy, and I basically won no games. That's impossible, because I'm the only player, either that or there's another player on my side and the entire enemy team is full players. That's how bad the situation is. But of course, you might be wondering, how is that effective towards Enlisted bias, or should I say more exactly, the player issues? And in my opinion, the player issues with limited players on both sides or on one side is just going to cause problems. For example, like I said with my Axis Normandy example, if one group has very little players and the other group has tons of players, the group who has very little players is already off the bat inherently off at a disadvantage. Of course, there is skill issues and factors, but most of the time when you have around the same skill, it's not really going to make the difference. It's just going to make the guys who have less players much more harder or straight outright impossible in some cases. Case in point, I played a few games with a bunch of my friends, and we turns out that having 3 players on both sides or 4 players on both sides, and even giving 1 player to the other side, it's not really effective. What's really affecting, or should I say affecting, your win rate and gameplay experience is the fact that both sides should have equal amount of players. Both sides should instantly have an easier time fighting each other. It's not going to be like one side only has 1 dude and the other side has 10 players. That's called essentially stomping, even without the game starting. So that said, that is essentially why I believe Enlisted's bigger problem, what should I say, is to get more players. Because the only way that you can really solve this is essentially getting more players, because Enlisted really doesn't have a choice of making the game better in terms of this regards. Of course, it can make progression better, such as what they're doing right now, hopefully. And it can minimize bias, which is also a very good idea, because, still, I would argue that having an M2 carbine while the Japanese has the M1 Grand isn't very a good idea, and so that's an issue. Of course, you would also like to minimize bias, which I just said, but at the same time, the biggest thing that I would like to say is that you really, Enlisted, should really focus on getting more players, because more players is what really matters. Because the more the players are on both sides, the more you are balanced, and the more you are better. Case in point, like I once said again, Axis Normandy, I am pretty sure, I'm almost certain the fact that by the time Axis Normandy gets essentially the German paratroopers, everyone's going to be playing on Axis Normandy, and very little people are going to be playing on Allied Normandy. I could be completely wrong, but hopefully the situation evens out. And this literally happens with Enlisted, and because the game is one group perceives bias, they join the team, and what's going to happen is that they're going to think that side has the advantage. Everyone joins the team, or for the special case of the Pacific, everyone joins the Japanese because it's the only faction in the Pacific. And what ends up happening is the fact that no one plays the other side and they get stomped. So that's very unfortunate. And like I said at the beginning, or should I say in the middle of this video, the only real way that Enlisted could fix this is essentially giving us more players. And the only way more players is going to work is that if Enlisted promotes itself better. Therefore, it is in my highest opinion that Enlisted, as of right now, for its game's sake and for more players' sake, that Enlisted should get more and more players. Of course, this is going to come down to a few things. My personal favorite is marketing, putting the game on Steam, there's a lot of ways that Enlisted can promote the game and essentially getting more and more players. Enlisted, I would have to say, is doing a pretty good job of fixing the issues that we've addressed, although it's taken a little time. But overall, I would say the biggest problem as of Enlisted as of 2022 is the player issue, and the fact that the players on both sides aren't even. And if once the players are not even on both sides in a particular game, and that happens multiple times and it's going to stomp, then we are going to have big issues regarding balancing, because however you want to balance the game, like literally you get the Japanese to M1 Grands and the Americans get the M2 Carbon. If no one plays the Japanese side, or should I say, if no one plays the American side, that's not going to count for anything because no one's going to use it. Of course, even if you have one, that's not really going to help the situation. You're just going to get swarmed. So that's going to be the issue. Like I said, the biggest issue as of Enlisted right now is getting more players. And that is what I think it's going to happen, or what I think Enlisted should focus on for the remainder of 2023. That said, what do you think of this video? What do you think of the idea? And what do you think of the issue? Have a great day, guys. Comment in the comment section down below, and I'll see you in the next one.